Of the three rappers of BTS, I personally find JHope the hardest to understand, but let me clarify that. I personally need to first understand the basic meaning of whatever someone is saying in its most juvenile and basic form. That's the only way for me to dig deeper into what really lies beneath. For JHope, I often find it hard to even understand his basic meaning. It isn't because he writes bad, it's because he writes like a mythical writer. Sometimes he doesn't just pepper his song with idioms and metaphors. Some of his songs, in its entirety, is actually a giant metaphor. That leads us to the very first observation.
Hi, before we get into the first point, this is a series we're looking into BTS's members' individual writing style, their creative preferences, their songwriting process, and if there's anything that I get wrong in terms of their lyrics or their writing because I'm not a native speaker, please go ahead and correct me. I would love to learn. Okay, so we are on JHope. Let's get on with the video. But if you do end up liking this video, please consider liking it. Also subscribe and hit that notification button so that you know when there's a new video coming out. And of course, share it if you can, if you like it. Thank you.
He is often mistranslated and misinterpreted. I have been blessed with Korean friends who are very patient with my questions about their language and culture. That has helped me understand some of the things that he's saying a little better. Genius Translation is one of the most consistent and reliable translation sites for Korean songs. However, it seems they still get some things wrong. For Pandoras Box, their translation for one of the verses says, "A picture I drew, this dream was drawn by Zeus. Is it the only big picture? The owner's curiosity summoned me. This is like Pandora's faithful criminal." That sentence makes sense, but a Korean literature teacher told me that's not what JHope meant. He said JHope actually meant, "The dream I had, this dream was forged by Zeus." Was this his vision? Curiosity inspired my master to create me. This is like Pandora's destiny. It is criminal. In the first interpretation, he drew Zeus's dream. Zeus then called him, and he is like Pandora's faithful criminal. In the second interpretation, it seemed that Zeus created a dream. He had a vision and had him, JHope, dream it. It was Zeus' curiosity that led him to create JHope. He was handed a destiny he needed to work to fulfill. He wasn't given a choice, and that is criminal. If the second one is correct, it would add a new layer to the song because at the end of the song, he did accept this fate. He accepted this task he was given and is doing his best to fulfill it. In the third track of JHope, In the Box Stop, Genius Translation opens with, "Right, there's something difficult about my friend." But a friend of mine actually said that he might actually be saying something else. He could be saying, "What if you have a conflict with your friend?" That would turn the song into a conversation with the listener rather than the first one, which makes it a storytelling session. That is a very important distinction. Also, in the third and fourth lines, Genius Translation indicated a reaction that raises doubts even if you say it in a good way. "I am or you are the one who always gives, trying to hide it, red sun." This didn't make sense to me at all. And the Korean literature professor said that JHope actually said, "Even if you were nice with your words, that reaction." And then he didn't finish the sentence. He left it hanging before proceeding. "Everyone secretly wants to scream to the world that they did better, that they were the better person." That leaves me with one question. What on earth is a red sun? But we will come back to that in a bit. But regardless of what red sun means, those two interpretations are very, very different from each other. The savagery we are missing. Because of the mistranslation or the miscontextualization, there is a huge possibility we are missing a lot of his gutsy and very strong observations for or against humanity. For example, in Stop, verse 3 of Genius Translation says, "These days the world is smarter, but filled with things that aren't smart. Remote conversations filled with anger. Sacrifice is a matter of time." A professor of literature in Korea said that he may actually be saying our world is guided by smart technology, but humans aren't getting smarter. The internet is actually filled with many angry conversations, and many participants of these conversations will become the targets eventually. That's a direct, strong, and a very, very firm opinion on how technology that has vastly improved makes people reliant on it. They don't think anymore. They just rely on technology on what to do, and it is making them dumber. The first one is a passive observation about technology itself. The second one is much, much more strong. It is a direct criticism on how many are allowing themselves to be manipulated by technology and the people behind it. Still in Stop, verse 2 stated, yes, I watch the news, but what's that? Deadly criminal? Are people really like that? Actions of humans are worse than brutes. It is so dirty, so foul. I wonder if they call themselves human. But there may be more to it. Coming from the statement, there are no bad people in the world, he goes on to say, I also watch the news. But what's that? Deadly criminal? Is it a human being? Crimes committed by those worse than animals. They're so hideous. To put it harshly, I feel the bastards aren't humans. The second interpretation could mean he's saying there are no bad people in the world because those people who are evil aren't humans. Absolutely savage and gutsy for even saying that. Another example is in the second track, More. Genius translation says, take everything like Kit Kat. Tastes so sweet. Mutual relationships so good for me. Pump some gas and I drive to the beat. Watch out everyone, I'm reckless. Drunk in artistic painting, keep hyping up Dali. I want it. Stadium with fans. Still. But what he may actually meant was, eat up even the bad criticisms like it's sweet, like Kit Kat. Criticism is like gas. It makes me drive faster towards the beat. Get out of the way, I'm reckless. Like a Dali painting, my art is intoxicating. The second interpretation offers more of a peek on how JHope treats criticism and hate. It powers him up instead of putting him down. It is a direct response towards haters who have dedicated their lives taking him and his band down, or at least trying to do so. And then there's the line about Dali, Salvador Dali, a Spanish artist. That leads me to my next point. JHope's metonymy. Metonymy is when you refer to a specific kind of concept using a different kind of name, something closely associated to it. So for example, when you say a suit, it actually refers to executives or a businessman. When you say White House, you could actually be referring to the government and not the actual structure. In this particular song, he mentioned the artist Dali. Dali is known for his bizarre art, which leaves a lot to people's interpretation. In fact, many of the images he used are radically controversial. Others are just plain idiosyncratic. In fact, many critics and writers have claimed that even Dali's own interpretation of his own work is not reliable. JHope refers to himself as the Dali of K-pop, but it doesn't seem so in the first glance because he seems so normal. He speaks so normally. But it is that normality that makes it even more bizarre. But unlike Dali, JHope's rebellion isn't actually visible. It's not in the visual part. You won't find it on the surface. You need to look harder, listen closer, and think better. That's where JHope is, in the farthest corner few brains can ever stretch to. Classic literature and mythology. If I remember correctly, JHope's father is a literature professor. This could have actually greatly influenced not just the way that he writes, but the way he thinks, because the man thinks of songs like it's one big mythology or literary piece. Many of the songs or rhymes he writes and produces may only be truly appreciated if you truly know and understand the literary piece he used or referred to. For example, the song Stop's Korean title is literally actually translated to There Are No Bad People in the World. It is based on a book of the same title by Won Jae-un. It is a collection of short stories, and one of them explores how we will look at things and the world if humans and their pets would actually switch places. This was actually adapted into a TV show in Korea. The title literally actually said there are no bad dogs in this world. Kang Yun-wook. If the name sounds familiar, it is because this is the dog trainer that V consulted before he adopted Yontan. He actually participated in the show. And just like another famous dog trainer in the US, Cesar Millan, the show dealt with the reasons a dog may be misbehaving, and that includes bad energy or behavior from its owners, trauma, or even the geographical factors. They advocated that there are no bad dogs in this world, just dogs that are mishandled. Dionysus needs to be mentioned as well. As armies know by now, JHope was the primary writer and producer of the song, and it is nothing but perfection. Many of you must know that Dionysus was the god of fertility and wine. Later, he was also considered to be the god of arts. Dionysus sort of personifies what wine is. Like wine, he can bring merriment and enjoyment, but too much of it, and he can be brutal. There is, however, an often neglected part of the song that may actually provide a deeper depth into the song. He mentioned the phrase born again, twice actually in the song, and many don't know that Dionysus was actually twice born. When Dionysus was still in his mother's womb, his mother started dying. Zeus took him and sewed him up in his thigh until he reached maturity. Zeus then gave birth to Dionysus. This is actually very important because in Black Swan, they actually talked about dying twice. In Dionysus, they actually talked about being born twice. The brains of JHope and BTS, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in Hang Sang, he also has specific lines that say only the right and correct things. Look outside the well and only the good things. This is actually in reference to a Chinese fable, The Frog in the Well. I know you didn't expect to hear a fable when you started watching this video, but come on, this is BTS we're talking about. Always expect to get more than what you were promised. The Frog in the Well is about a frog in the bottom of a well. This well was the frog's entire world, and he believed the well to be the biggest and most magnificent place in existence. Until one day, a turtle from the outside world happened to pass by the well and looked inside. The frog struck a conversation with the turtle, proudly telling the turtle about its beautiful well. The turtle, who had, of course, seen the vastness of the world beyond the well, smiled kindly and said, "You may think your well is impressive, but it's just a tiny part of a much larger world. There are oceans, mountains, and lands beyond your imagination." The frog was initially dismissive, but then he realized he has been living in ignorance, believing he knew everything when in fact he knew very little about the world. The story is about people whose perspectives or points of view are so narrow that they're actually missing out on so many things. Here they are thinking they know everything when in fact they know very little. In Hang Sang, JHope talked about how he is expanding his reach with his bandmates while others are still in the well, quote unquote. Another one is in Hope World. He made a reference to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. It is a story of an expedition team searching for a sea monster. However, they get trapped in the submarine, away from the reach of any authority or government. Battling conditions never seen by any human, and had to go through different adventures just to be able to get back to land. That's of course oversimplifying it, but it does mimic the adventure of BTS. They are unreachable by many other artists, battling issues, breaking down barriers that held back many other Asian artists in the past. Idioms. JHope loves idioms, and he uses not just popular idioms, but he also makes up his own. I think he actually enjoys torturing translators and mere mortals like me who just really want to understand his art. Understanding him is like a hazing. Only if you keep your sanity at the end of his songs will you earn the privilege to try and understand him. In Arson, he mentioned leaving when people still applaud, a literal translation of an idiom meaning quitting while you're ahead. This further solidifies what they said in Bring the Soul. JHope said he agreed with Suga about not being afraid of when their popularity finally fades, for as long as they get to walk away from it themselves instead of being forced into it. I agree with you, Suga Young, for as long as it is a landing and not a crash, JHope said. Another popular idiom may be found in Hang Sang. There, he literally said, "We are number 18." Apparently, number 18 is a slang term in Korea that refers to your favorite song that you want to sing in a karaoke. One of the most popular idioms he used actually came from the game of Go, a Japanese game. In the song Arson, Genius translated a song, "Oh, that it'll be like a soot-covered path of darkness even if the fire is put out. Tell myself a big hurdle an inch before my nose calls for a strategic move from me. A move to help me not give up on this game." Yep, I also don't know what that meant. But anyway, the exact translation of the last lines read, "A move to help avoid a game where I'll have to throw a stone." This is an old Japanese expression derived from the game Go. This is when a player acknowledges he has no chance of winning but he doesn't want to lose. Another one in Safety Zone. There is a line that reads, "It's like a tin can Porsche." Apparently, a tin can is a slang term for the cheapest entry models of luxury car brands. It refers to how one is pushing itself to look rich by buying the cheapest versions of a luxury brand. Another good one is in Stop. He mentioned Red Sun. He said each thinks that they are being easy on the other, trying hard to hide. Red Sun. Apparently, Red Sun is a signal or a catchphrase that a hypnotist used on TV to send someone into a trance. The term became very, very popular in Korea. So that line in the song could mean people are being manipulated. Irony between lyrics and beats. JHope has this uncanny ability to make beats into everything that the lyrics are not. Hope World sounded upbeat, but the lyrics are actually very dark. Jack in the Box sounded and looked very dark, but the lyrics are actually very insightfully bright. Many of BTS songs where he was the primary songwriters actually also sounded ironic in its lyrics to beat relationship. Dionysus is supposed to be a song of partying. Its beat sounds like they are a bunch of gladiators getting ready to destroy Western civilization. Deceased is another example. He admitted that the beat sounds very upbeat, and the initial lyrics he wrote were in fact very dark. He decided to put a hopeful spin in the end just to take it down a notch. He writes stories. My friend said it's a novel. It's a story. He just decided to put some beats and instruments in it. That's a Korean literature teacher talking. He said that he felt that Jack in the Box just happened to have melodies and beats, but it's actually a story. And if you really examine the whole structure, you will see the development of the main characters, Jack, JHope, and Jung Hosuk, the tribulations and conflicts they went through, and the conclusion, which saw the three characters becoming one. In fact, in What If, two of the three characters talked to each other. He said, "I asked JHope, could you continue living like this?" Then he, presumably Jack, said JHope may not be a creation of my volition, but it is a product of my trials and tribulations. Later, he also said you, JHope, have it all now. Money, glory, fortune, even followed by the people that you admire. You talk about loving yourself, but if all this are taken away from you, can you still tell people to love yourself and have hope? The dispositions of these three characters help him in the exposition of the story. It starts with the birth of JHope, not Hosok, but JHope. It progresses through the development of his character as JHope and Jack being pushed in the shadows. The conclusion has all three characters finding the middle ground, a pact to continue on with their path. He did this in Hope World too, albeit not as mature as his exposition in Jack in the Box. He opened Hope World with an introduction. Hello to my Hope World, this is my world, my own story. Run 20,000 leagues under the sun. Okay, shout out to my Hope World. Regardless of who you became, the subject is non-specific here. Let's go once around the world like a novel, my own feel. In Korea, apparently the phrase like a novel is used like Americans use like a movie. It refers to something that feels like it's larger than life, too big to become a coincidence. Believe it or not, he did this even with On the Street, his gift for armies before he left for the military. He started by telling armies that he was able to walk, run, and move, most likely referring to his progression as an artist because of armies. He then proceeded to talk about how he decided to give his all because the path he was walking on was paved by army's love. He ends by telling Army that he will leave his heart on the street that Army paved for him while he fulfills his obligations, referring of course to the military. I don't know if you share this sentiment, but I wanted that song to be longer. He is a manipulator of sound. When he dropped the line "wish on a scar," which as you may know is only a letter away from "wish on a star," I just knew I missed so much of what JHope wanted to say in the past. JHope has a different sonic power. He can change the meaning of an old tale with a single inflection. I am still catching up, but I'm finding out just how he finds spots to change, to give something so old an entirely new spin. In Hang Sang, for example, he apparently pronounced it so differently that it means something tragic. Hang Sang means always, but he makes it sound like murder, like he's murdering with his rhymes.
I do know that there's a lot about J-Hope that we miss. We don't understand. He is underestimated, miscontextualized. I wish that there is somebody out there who will just devote more of their time to try and explain to us more about J-Hope, his lyricism, his brilliance, his literature, and all of that. I will try to do my part. I'll continue to consult with experts. I hope that my friends continue to be patient with me. But if you have anything to share, if you feel like there's something that I got wrong, please go ahead and leave them in the comment section below. You know me, you can say anything that you want to say for as long as you say it respectfully, you're good. Okay, and also you can get in touch with me in any of the social media links that you see on your screen right now. And if you did end up liking this video, please consider liking it, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And of course, share the video if you can. Thank you so much. RM is next. Till next time, I appreciate you guys.